So now we're on Daf Chav Zayin Amud Beis, and the Gemara is going to give a psychological analysis of the mindset of a person who says, "Harei Zagita me'achshav imlo basi mikami ad shnei masar chodesh," and he did not anticipate that he would die within the 12 months. The Iyavi Yodid in this, certainly had he anticipated his death, he would have certainly had complete Gemiras Das and made a total decision that this get should be found minly out there immediately. Because after all, he gave her the get. He said, "Me'achshav, the get should be found now," unless you want to leave himself an out that within the 12-month period he'll come back and resume the marriage relationship. But his purpose is that she be divorced, so that after his death, she shouldn't have to fall for Yibum in case where he doesn't have any children, and his brother is I don't know where. The Choletz is not to be found. But getting back to the case of Matvish Tarosa Bebezdin, Skliosa Bebezdin, if he would have known that he would have an onus, he couldn't come back within 30 days, he certainly would not have been Mevatel Sklio. So basically, if we summarize this Gemara, the sugya is based on analyzing his mindset in a case of onus. In get, if you would have asked him, do you want to give the get even if you're onus in lo basi, for example, you'll die? The answer is a definite affirmative. Yes, I want the get to be chal. I don't want my wife to have to suffer for the rest of our life. But if you ask the case of Makvis Kuyoso, and he wants to give himself 30 days, wouldn't he have said, well, in case of honors, and I can't come, give me another extra day? So again, just to summarize, the bottom line here, the sugya is that according to Rava, in the case of Matvis Kuyoso Bebezdin, the kiyum atnai, which would invalidate his chiyos and completely disqualify them, was lo basi. And Rava says that if he was anus, that's not called the kiyum atnai of lo basi, and he doesn't lose his chiyos. Maishna, Gemara, how is that different? Niahu di amalahu. A man says to two witnesses on the get, right? Two witnesses who are in front of him when he gives the get. Elo say no mikanvad plus in Yomi elevi gita. If this get, you want to know whether it's chal or not, I'm going to give myself 30 days to come back and be mevatel again. So once again, the kiyum I get depends upon lo basi. Also, he comes and he wants to be mevatel again. Upaski mabra. Now, mabra, there are two translations of the word mabra. Rashi in Shas, whenever the word mabra appears, he says it's a svina. It's a boat. Sheba over Mesanor, and they use these boats to cross the river. But there is a Rashi, one Rashi in Shas, in Kiddushin Einam and Beis, where Rashi interprets the word mabra as geshem, which honestly makes a lot more sense to me here in our sugya, that Paski Mabra means the bridge collapsed. But if you assume that Mabra means the boat itself, but what does it mean, Paska Mabre? I guess what it means is that the river somehow prevented him from coming back to the city where he's supposed to show up. But in any event, the bottom line is that the Lobasi which, right, the Kima Tanai, which would activate and validate the get, was Ba'onis. He cannot get across the river. Either because something happened to his boat or to the bridge. So the person's on the other side of the river. It's the 30th day, and he's yelling and screaming, Chazuda soy, Chazuda soy. See, I came. Again, he didn't come to here, but he means to say that as far as he can come, he came. I mean, that's as far as he can go. There's no more bridge to cross the bridge. There's no more, the Sfina can't get across the river. Amar Shmuel lo shmei masya. He cannot come and claim I was mevatel the tonight. He was mekayim the tonight. The get is valid. And why is that? Because coming close to the city and getting stuck on the other side of the river is not considered that you came to the city. But mindful, I made this honest. We see that Shmuel holds the opposite of Rava, and Kiyama Tanai Ba'ones of Lo Basi is considered a Kiyama Tanai. If the Lo Basi was the result of the fact that he was prevented from doing so, mitigating circumstances beyond his control, nevertheless, he didn't come. And if he didn't come, there's a Kiyama Tanai, and the get is valid. And according to Rava, he derived from our Mishnah that if the reason why he didn't show up at the banquet of his mazmin, of his buddy Reuven, is because he was onus, that's not considered a Kiyama Tanai. So why would, just to say it clearer, according to Rava, Chazud Asai, and therefore the get is not Chalam, coming to be Mevatel the get. So again, keep in mind, we have to emphasize, we're not talking about a case of Harezek Yitech in Mati or any of those cases where because of his anticipated death, he wanted to be Megarish at the Patra from Yibum. That's not this case. So now at this juncture, the Gemara is going to go into a very subtle psychological analysis of why he didn't stipulate that if he can't come because of onus, then he doesn't want to get to Bichal. Dilma onsa de migle shani. Umabra migle unse. The Gemara now is classifying the nature of the onus, the two categories of onsu. One is called onus matsui, and the other is eno matsu. So Pascha Mabre is something that could have been anticipated. It's matsui. I guess the bridge breaks down from time to time, or the river overflows and he can't get across with his small boat, whatever it might be, but there's a way of anticipating it. And then we go with the Ran's approach that we said before. He should have said at the time that he gave the get that if an onus would occur, then I don't want to get to Bichal. He didn't say that. And because he didn't stipulate that explicitly, therefore the get is Chal, even though there were circumstances beyond his control. But if you have an onus sheino matzuli, Nebuch, his friend his son took ill. That's not something he anticipated. And we're not going to say hoyel olahalos bedato, and you should have made it tonight, that if the reason why I don't come is because my son is ill, then the whole deal is off. But I don't want to be mafsid my school. See, you don't say such a thing because it's not anticipated. But mabra migli unse. Now, it's very strange because in our Mishnah of Neder, one of the three cases of Nidre Otzim was Ikro Nar. So we're going to have to say that Ikro Nar, as we said before, is not to be anticipated because an unusual amount of water fell from the mountains after the snows melted. And nobody anticipated that, therefore, he wouldn't be able to come to dinner. It's like a blizzard, but it depends what part of the world you're in. Certain blizzards are quite predictable, but this is an unpredictable blizzard. But if you're talking about Pascha Mavra, that's already something he should have anticipated. Now we ask the kasha on Rav Huna. We said according to Rav Huna that if a man is matvis his chuyos in Bezdin for a 30-day period, and then he wants to come at the end of the 30 days, but he's onus, and Rav Huna says in that case, his bittul chuyos is a valid legal transaction. What about asmach? Will Rav Huna michli asmachti lo kaya? Asmachta means when we have reason to assume, based on the circumstances, that he doesn't have Gemar Das. He doesn't really decide that he wants to be Mischayel. Like he thinks he's a card shark, right? He's the greatest jack, what's it called? The poker player in the world, right? And he loses. So we say Asmachta lo kanya. In other words, we have to analyze, what his mindset was. Did he really have a Gemiras Das that he wanted to cancel all his chuyos in Bezdin if he can't get back here because of Oneh? And the answer is Shani Hocha de B'Tafson Skusa. There is such a thing as Gemiras Das that is objective. It's based on a Maisa that he does. And here, the fact that he took his shtaros in a bag, brought them over to Bezdin, and plopped them on the table of Bezdin, that's called hitfis skuyosa b'yadacher. In such a case, he's like saying, you know what? These shtaros already been collected. They're invalid. He has Gemiras Das to be Mavatal, and that Gemiras Das is manifest in the Mesiras Hashtar LeBezdin. That's not Asmach. So the Gemara says, Heicha de Mitafson Lav Asmachti. Are you telling me that whenever he gives the shtar over to someone else, that is indicative and demonstrative of an absolute Gemiras Das, a decision on his part, and it's not an Asmachta or Tanah. We learned in the Mishnah. Now this Mishnah, I believe, is in Bava Metzia. Just 1 second. Gimel. It's the end of Bava Basra. Misha Parmik says Chovo. So now he's chayav a shvua because of Odom Miktsas. V'hishlish eshtoro. He gave over his shtar to someone else, the Yad Shlish. So it means that the Lova says to Mava, I'm not going to allow you to hold on to this shtar. You're going to come back and collect the chol. And I already paid you half the chol. So the Malva now agrees to give over the shtar into the hands of an escrow. The Omar, and the Lova says, if I don't pay you back the other half of the loan, in the next 30 days, he directs the shlish that he should give over the shtar to the Malva, give his shtar back to him. Now I'll have to pay him the whole chol. He is man lo nasan. 30 days passed, and he neglected to pay the other half of the chol. The shlish already has his guidelines based on what the Lova told him to return the shtar into the hands of the Malva. And he's going to have to pay the entire chol. Rabbi Yehuda disagrees. Rabbi Yehuda Omer lo yitin. This is a very dangerous thing to allow the Malva to get back his shtar chov when half the shtar was paid off. So the machlokas here between Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Yehuda is about asmachta, and Rabbi Yossi is saying asmachta kanya. Rabbi Yehuda on the other hand is saying asmachta lo kanya. The Omer Nachman Rabbi Rav Ein alok Rabbi Yossi the Omer asmachta kanya, but rather alok is like Rabbi Yehuda asmachta ein a kohen. And this applies even though he was mashlish shtar b'yadachet. We're still saying asmachta lo kanya. And this against Rav Huna, who paskins against Rav. Now Rav is the Rebbe of Rav Huna. It's very difficult to assume that Rav Huna paskin against Rav. And the Gemara answers shiny hacha. The Omar levatlon zachvase. In the case of the Gabra who was matvis l'chuis in the Bezdin, if he doesn't come within 30 days, he made a statement that all his skuyos would be bought. Again, if we apply the principle that we mentioned earlier of Hodas Bal Din, he was moder that if he doesn't show up to substantiate any proofs that he has and his claim, then all his rayos are betelos. That was Hodas Bal Din. You know, he's basically implying that the rayos are sheker. They're not reliable. And therefore, he cannot use those rayos to as a proof to substantiate his claim against the nitba. The Gemara concludes asmachta kanya. So a person takes upon himself his chayrus, that'll give something to his friend if he doesn't do a certain maisa, and at the end he doesn't do the maisa, that the chayrus is chal. So, for example, he says he's going to be mafsid in shtar skuyos if he doesn't show up, and he was honest and he didn't show up. He didn't show up, and if he didn't show up, asmachta kanya. The Gemara now limits that. The hudalo onus. When do we say that asmachta is kona? That's where he was not honest. He didn't do what he had to do because of his ratzon. It was his decision. But if he didn't fulfill his chayvus because of honest, then his friend is not kona. Because lo al daito is chayev im yanis. Another limitation. But who the konomine? When do we say the kinyan is chayvus is chal? Even in asmachta, that's only when there was a kinyan suda. And that's mafkir the din of asmachta lo kanya. Right? Because the asmachta means he made a verbal, oral commitment to his friend of chayvus that the kinyan should be chal lachazman. And not only that, even if he didn't say that the kinyan should be chal now, if he was maknit in the bezdin chashuv, let's say a bezdin of smuchim, then it's not an asmach. Person doesn't make a joke out of bezdin. So any kinyan that was made in bezdin is a hodah k'mura, absolutely binding, and it's as if he said that the kinyan should be chal right now. And we don't apply the principle of asmach lo kan. Now the Mishnah continues on the vein of Nidrei Onsim. Nodrin laharagin u'lecharavim l'mosim. There are many situations in which a person, in order to save his mammon or possibly his own skin, he will fabricate a kind of a neder, but he was never serious about the neder. So we have three cases here mentioned in the Mishnah. Haragim, those are listim. They kill people in order to armed robbery to take their money. Karamim are thieves, and mofsin are tax collectors that come in the name of the king to collect the taxes. Now, in any of these three cases, somebody comes and wants to take away his payrolls, let's say. He's allowed to take a neder. Now, what does he say? There's neder shehi truma, so they won't take it from him. Now, rotzchim and gazlonim, einam ochlim truma asura l'zorim. You hear this from guy with pelican. Afal pisha ain't a truma. It's not truma, so the neder is not chal. Or he takes a neder shehein shel beis hamelech. This property belongs to the king. Nichsei hamelech. Afal pisha ain't shel beis hamelech. Even though it's not truma, it's not beis hamelech. Nevertheless, he's allowed to take this neder, and it's not a binding neder, obviously, because it's nidrei omsim. V'chame omrim bakol nodrim. In neder, I agree with you. Here we turn to Daf Chof Ches. Chutz mi but I don't agree with you. Shvur. Shvur is chamur yoser. We can be mekil in a neder, but not in a shvur. And the Torah says, with regard to a shvur, lo yinake. They say, omrim af b'shvur. You're even allowed to take a shvur, which is a mentioning the name of God in order to save your property, your possession. The Chamay Omer, here's another machlokus. Right, we have a three-way machlokus. Lo yiftach, lo beneder. We should not encourage a person to take such a neder to prove his point and get out of a situation of listim and so forth and so on. It's only if the anos comes to force him to cough up his possessions, then we'll allow him to take the neder. Beisil omrim af yiftach. He can take the initiative, and even though the anos did not demand the payros, he can still take that initiative, and yiftach lo mi'atzmo lindor, he'll take that neder. Another machlokes. Beit Shammai omrim pameu madiro. According to Beit Shammai, they were matir to take the neder only in the case of ma shemadira, only that which the anas is asking to take away from him. But you can't add other things. And Beit Hillel say you can even add to the neder. Ketzad, what does this mean? Loli anas says to the neder, emor. I want you to take a neder that konam ishti nenesli. The Omar, and he said, konam ishti ubanai nenemli. He prohibits not only his wife bahana, but even the members of his household. Bechame omer ishto muteres. Okay, that was an onus, but banav asur. The others didn't ask him to take a neder prohibiting his sons from hana. So therefore, what he adds from his das, that's a valid neder. Even his sons are allowed to enjoy the benefits, and the neder is not chal, because he dramatized his neder on his own initiative in order to avoid paying the taxes or being the victim of things. So that's the Mishnah, which we concluded here on Daf Chof Ches, and in Mitzvah Hashem tomorrow we'll begin the Sugya Sagamara on Daf Chof Ches. And take this opportunity to wish you a great day.